This is gonna be my first book slash knitting haul thing. I've seen a couple of people do this before and it's actually been really helpful for recommendations. So I'm gonna share with you the knitting related book supplies yarns that I'm finding really good at the moment. To start off, let's talk about the current projects I'm working on. The first one is from this book called A Hand Knit Romance. In the Spring Knitting and Stitching Show, I met the author and she was really sweet and kind, and I got to see the sample of the thing that I'm looking at. The thing that I'm working on. It's a lace shawl shrug thing, but I'm doing it with different colors. I'll show you. I'm using stitch markers as well because I get totally lost in lace patterns. So here it is. This is the right side, I think. So you can see it's like really nice. It's quite stretchy. And this is going to be the armhole, and that's going to be the back. So it's just like a little shrug. I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, the patterns that she wrote are really easy to follow. The photography is beautiful and all the patterns are super lovely, vintagey, Victorian sort of slash 1920s inspired, really girly as well, which I don't usually go for. These patterns are super classic and beautiful. I just fell in love with them. A hand knit romance, I think, is sort of implied. These are the kind of things you would wear if you're going on a date or if you were living in a really romantic world, but I just fell in love with the pattern, so I guess there's romance in that. Next thing I'm working on is a knit along, and I'll put the username of the lady on Ravelry and on Instagram. I'll put that somewhere here, maybe? No, this side probably. It's a 2-color triangle scarf shawl thing. The pattern was free and I've gotten pretty far with it already. I'm using some wool that I already had. Rowing Cocoon. Soft, and I just want to just cuddle it all day. A rougher tweed that I had like a huge cone of that I got. So I thought that would be a really good excuse to use that. I really like it. And it's so much fun being involved in a knit along. Okay, let's talk about another yarn that I'm really in love with at the moment. This is by a company, I can never say the name of it. Araucana? Anyway, it's dyed in Chile. Each of the dye baths are completely unique, which I really love. Like that was sort of like a sell point for me. This was some yarn that I got at the Knitting and Stitching Show last year at Alexandra Palace, and it's kind of like a double knit. Again, single ply. I'm trying to get used to it, and it's just so beautifully space dyed. I want to eat it. And then this stuff is sort of sock weight that my mom got at a knitting store in Bristol, which is a new knitting store. Mom, what's the name of that knitting store? Don't know. Remember what road it was on? No. Anyway, it's a new knitting shop in Bristol that she went into. Probably the only knitting shop in Bristol. But really pretty colors. Sort of reminds me of autumn. But this is my mom's. And then something silly that my mom got me at the same knitting store are these super, super tiny knitting needles. They're 2mm, and we kind of have this joke, me and my mom have this joke because I love teeny tiny needles. I usually use like a 2.5, 3 for like any of my projects if I can get away with it. I just find them super easy to use. So whenever my mom sees ridiculously tiny needles, she gets them for me. So these are Knit Pro ones. They're standalone. They're super nice. I've got 2 other books to show you kind of on the same thread as the Hand Knit Romance. They're both taken from traditional or old knitting patterns and revamped into modern styles. And that's my favorite kind of knitting pattern, to be honest. This is called Knitting Traditions 32 Classic Projects. It's got some really lacy shawl things, and it's also got some really fun, crazy, amazing stuff. And I love the pictures of these guys knitting. It just makes me so happy that these skills are being taught. From all over the world, there's traditional knitting patterns. I cannot wait to sit down and read the articles in here. Like, I just want it in my brain right now. I want all of this information in my brain. I think this is fall 2012, so I guess it is magazine, if you wanted to pick that up. The last thing I want to show you today is a favorite book of mine that I bought when I started getting really into sock knitting, and it's called Knitting Vintage Socks. Such an original name. But as it says on the back, it says New Twist Classic Patterns. And the photography in here is really nice, and the thing that I really like about it is that she goes into detail about the history of some of the patterns and about knitting. It's by Nancy Bush. Introduction, the history about it, I loved reading that. There's a bit about the Industrial Revolution and how women used to knit as a livelihood, and a bit about how there was a queen that used to knit stockings and how it suddenly became fashionable. It's really great, and there's these lovely vintage illustrations of socks which just melt my heart so much. They're so nice. And there's like really complicated ones and really easy ones for men. You can use tiny needles. I think there's a couple of ones with bigger needles. There's tons of variations of toes and heels. This is like the one book that I need when I'm knitting socks, pretty much. It's amazing. I'm a big fan of traditional methods, so this is one of my favorite books for knitting socks. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. So, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more videos. I'm trying to get a new video out every Tuesday. Yeah, so if you're in London on the weekend, I'm going to be in Camden on Friday with We Make London at the Locks, and we'll be there pretty much all day. And then on the 6th, I'm going to be in Camden again on my friend's boat, Oshun. We're going to be launching People's Space, which is like this big collaboration, trade, markety, fun thing. He's got a canal boat, and we're going to be selling and talking to people off of the side of the boat, and there'll be music, and it'll be really nice. So come along if you can. That's Friday and Saturday, April the 5th and 6th. And see my blog for more details, and I'll see you later. Okay, bye! Little trick when you're knitting and you want stuff to on the go. I stick my needles inside the ball of wool that I'm working on, because then the stitches don't go anywhere. Pretty cool trick.